Peter, good to see you.
Good to see you, Anne, too.
No need to ask you what you've been spending your lockdown doing.
No. I'm gonna when I look back on the lockdown in years to come, I'm always going to think of the Beatles, because it was especially last year. It was a miserable year. You know, you turn the TV on, it was terrible. But I got to go to work every day with Jabez and I sitting in a room cutting the Beatles and actually laughing all day long. So when everyone else was having a miserable time, we were laughing our heads off. So the Beatles got me through the lockdown. I'm always going to think back on the pandemic, and they're going to be that they got me through it without. Yeah, I'm so happy about that.
I'm really happy just hearing you say it. Look, whatever it takes to get through these last couple of years. And I think that's what I felt watching the amount of footage that we got, because I could almost feel your joy in discovering these pictures and this audio almost as much as the joy that they were kind of feeling. I found the whole thing really joyous to watch.
Well, it's joyous to look at it. I mean, I didn't sort of create the joyousness. It's there in the footage, and so that's what I loved when I looked at the entire bulk of the outtakes. It was just, this was funny stuff. It was humorous. I mean, it's dramatic. It's got, George Harrison walks out for a while halfway through. I mean, it's not just plain sailing, but their friendship gets them through it, and and it tells you a lot about these four guys, because if you want to ever see what someone is really like, then see how they react to a crisis. That's going to tell you more about anybody than any, a hard day's night or witty comments at a press conference. See how these guys react when things derail and things start to go wrong, and that will tell you who they are. And I came away with even more respect for the Beatles than I did going in, because they go through they're trying to do a particular project, which is performing live for the first time in 3 years. They don't want to do a big tour, 50,000 people. They just want to do 200 or 300 people, perform new songs and do a live album, and that's the project. They've created a project that they're attempting to do, and it all goes wrong. I mean, anything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong, including for a while there three band members. There's three Beatles, not four, which is about the worst that could ever happen to the Beatles. So they have to deal with that. They have to roll with the punches and always change the plan, come up with a new idea, new plan, and it evolves. And I just come away with a huge amount of respect. It's very much what happens in movies. Movies, you start out shooting a movie, and it never, where you are at the end of the movie is never what you intended. You never make the movie you thought you're going to make on day one. You come up with something completely different because of and that's very much this story. So I recognize a lot of that process, and it is a process in this footage I looked at. It's
a long process. My God, how long did it take to just restore the footage in itself from a technical perspective?
Well, we were restoring it 2 weeks ago. I mean, we started restoring it 4 years ago, and keeping restoring it all the time, keeping it making better and better. We the restoration, the sound restoration is the thing that's a big breakthrough on this movie. I mean, the picture, everyone obviously sees the picture restoration and sees it looking nice, and that's the most visible thing. But we had audio sound that was recorded by a film crew on mono tape, quarter-inch mono tape. When they get into the studio in the second half into Savile Row, they start doing some 8-track recordings in a proper recording studio. So we were able to use those. But for a lot of it, they're rehearsing, and they're not recording in a studio. They're rehearsing in a big film studio. And so the film crew are recording them, and the sound was appalling. It was terrible because it's not mixed, it's not balanced. So they'd be playing a song, and the vocals would be drowned out by the guitars, and drums would be too soft, or the drums would be too loud. I mean, it would just change all the time because it was just the film guys. So we developed technology that allowed us to split the mono track into all its components. We taught a computer, artificial intelligence, machine learning thing, where we taught it what a vocal sounds like, what a drum sounds like, what a guitar sounds like. So we said, okay, just give us the drums, and we'd get this soundtrack with just Ringo's drums on it, with no vocals. Even though you'd see them singing, you see them playing the guitars, couldn't hear it. If we just wanted the vocals, we'd get a track with just the vocals and nothing else, even though they're playing. And then we taught it to recognize John and Paul. So we were able to, because sometimes John and Paul are doing a harmony, and Paul's close to the mic and John's off mic. So in a studio situation, you'd balance it all up, but the film crew are just recording this unbalanced, weird harmony. So we were able to separate their voices, and then combine them in a much more harmonious way. So the big breakthrough for us was the audio component of this. Yeah.
I can imagine. And when we're talking the Beatles, it's pretty important. There was a really lovely grab that was, are you recording our conversation? And for me, that was that moment where you realise they're surrounded by cameras. And from that moment on, we're just seeing them going about whatever they're doing, oblivious in many ways to anything else that's happening apart from each other, while at the same time there's people plugging
not completely oblivious, because part of the story is this. Is Michael Lindsay Hogg is making this film, and he's now he's a character. I mean, he wasn't in the movie. He did make Let It Be. He doesn't appear in his own film, as you directors generally don't. But he's a character in our film, and there's this battle of wills goes on between Michael and the Beatles, because he, as I would if I was doing that job, he wants to film them when they don't know they're being filmed. He wants to record their conversations when they don't know they're being taped. So he becomes very adept at hiding microphones in strange places. He had his camera crew set the cameras up on tripods with 10-minute long rolls and just quietly hit the button and walk away to the cup of tea table. So the Beatles would just see these cameras sitting there with nobody behind them and think, oh, they're not filming us at the moment. They're off having a cup of tea. So they'd start to be very open and honest. And yet Michael's secretly filming them. He put a bit of tape over the red light. And then with the sound, when they realized that he was filming their conversations, usually John or George would turn the amp up really loud and just strum the guitar, not playing anything, just dang, dang, dang. So they're all talking while dang, dang. So Michael's sound is getting ruined. But of course, with this technology we've got, we can strip away the guitar and reveal these hidden conversations that they didn't want anyone to hear. So a lot of our narrative is told with them having conversations with each other that they never intended anyone to hear, but we can now hear them perfectly well. And in the movie, you a lot of that when they're talking to each other, quite a bit of that is drowned out by guitars in the original audio, but not anymore.
Wow, what a treasure hunt and a treasure trove. How does it feel to be finally delivering it to the fans?
I can't wait. Normally I'm nervous, or and I'm always nervous, but normally it's sort of I don't know what to make of a film once I finished it, but this, and I'm a Beatles fan. Even now when I look at this stuff, when I've been looking at the film recently to do the final grading, I forget that I'm involved in it, because this, I didn't shoot it. Michael Lindsay Hogg shot it. He deserves the credit. And I'm a fan sitting there still just shaking my head thinking, I can't believe this exists. I mean, who would have thought after 50 years, we would have thought that everything to do with the Beatles has been seen and heard. They were all the documentaries you see of the Beatles. It's the same old stuff. It's Ed Sullivan. It's Chase Adium. It's the same press conferences. It's like it tends to be there's a finite amount of footage. We've seen it all so many times, and then seemingly out of nowhere comes this treasure trove of not only is it 50 hours, 60 hours of new Beatles footage. It's the most intimate, personal, raw footage of any band, and the band happens to be the Beatles. So I'm still shaking my head in disbelief that after 50 years, and it's not that it's a documentary with, I remember there was a news story about 3 or 4 years ago where some British TV channel, at the top of the pops or something, had found 27 seconds of unseen Beatles footage on one of their tapes. There's 20, and there was a news story around the world, 27 seconds of never before seen Beatles footage on top of the pops that I've seen, and it was like, this is 60 hours of never seen stuff. It's our documentary is not people talking, being interviewed today, and then you have a little clip of unseen footage and then more interview. Our documentary is entirely from one end to the other unseen footage. Hours of it. We don't pad it out with the familiar stuff. This is it's all new footage. It just blows my mind.
Peter, how does
Michael Lindsay Hogg deserves a huge amount of credit. He gets a bad rap for Let It Be, grim and depressing, but the truth of it is, he shot this footage and he made such a contribution to the history of rock and roll by shooting this, and this is good on him.
Oh, I can imagine. How does it sit under wraps for all of this time?
Well, the Beatles didn't want it to be seen. So if they don't want something to be seen, it's easy. They have it in a big vault, which I got to visit, the secret vault in an undisclosed location somewhere in the world. It's like a James Bond thing, fortress. Yeah. And this was all sitting on a shelf, and they have not wanted anybody to see it for 50 years, because they didn't like Let It Be, only because Let It Be was released when they were breaking up, so it was a miserable time, and they associated Let It Be with their breaking up, and they sort of their memories have become all screwed up. But Let It Be was released 15 months after the stuff was shot. So the footage itself has nothing to do with the breaking up of the band. It just happens to be that Michael had to do all the post-production on his movie, and by the time he got his movie finished, they were breaking up. So so the Beatles themselves sort of bought into the mythology, and they Let It Be was pulled out of circulation in the 1980s, and they said, we never want Let It Be to be seen again. You can't get it. It's never been released on Blu-ray or DVD. It's not on, it's not available to anybody in this footage. If they didn't want Let It Be to be seen by anybody, they certainly didn't want the outtakes to be seen by anybody. So they sat on a misconception, if you like, themselves for all this time.
It's amazing. What an amazing insight. PJ, I'm being wrapped. You've got a couple more interviews to go. I'm off to interview your mate Steven Spielberg, so I'll say hi to him from you, shall I?
Yeah. Is that for West Side Story?
Yeah, just about to.
Yeah. Okay. I'll say hi. Yeah, say hi for me.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Get on to Tintin, will you? Hey, thank you. You're a star.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.